Well, it's just another beautiful spring day, and I got my doggie here, Miss Tansy, and her friend, Froggy. And we're at a special place called Discovery. It's a great outdoor nature center, and we're going to be walking around seeing what's here. And while I do that, I'm going to be sharing with you what the next news segment is all about today. Let's get going. Just before I stopped here, this little pond here behind me was quite alive with frogs. I heard some spring peepers. You can hear them in the distance. Of course, when I've approached with the dog, everybody quiets down too. And then down at this end over here, you might be able to hear the muttering, it's a good word, the muttering of some of the frogs, the larger ones. I assume they're the larger ones. Nothing. Anyway, I don't know if that's the wood frog I'm hearing out here. I know what the spring peepers sound like. I can't remember if this was a wood frog or I don't know which comes out. It's early spring, so only a few come out. I know the spring peepers are out. I can hear them in choruses already. Anyway, here's what we're going to be talking about in the next segment of segment 4. We're continuing on in the comparison study of the two spiders, the Joro Spider and our native spider in Florida, both of the golden silk orb weavers. And we're going to start out with the sexual behavior of these two spiders, and then we'll go on through a few other things as well. And I want to get to a very, I don't know if it's controversial, just different opinions as to can this spider bite or not, and what about its venom? So we'll end up with that. That'll be the last part we'll see today. Hey, let's head back to the lecture room. Let's go. In the distance, we have a nice flock of sandhill cranes. Hurry up, Miss Tansy, I gotta go. Let's go. Come on, girl. There you are. I thought you got lost. I want to just review what we've talked about for the first 4 areas of the Joro spider, the banana spider. 1, this is a very large spider. 2, it makes a very large web, and it's a very unique web. 3, it's a very bright colored spider, at least for the female. The males are pretty dull, just kind of light tans or browns, and very small. 4, the legs on these spiders, both the Joro and will that be clavata and clavipes, both their legs are long, especially the front legs. And the difference between those two spiders is that the clavipes has more bulky legs, more robust legs, and it has those hair tufts. Both places, or 2 places on each leg, except for the middle, pair number 3 doesn't have the hair tufts. Now, in the clavata, it doesn't have the hair tufts at all. So there's a difference, and it has very spindly, thin legs. Okay, now let's get back to the sexual behavior of these two spiders, or in general, the family of Nephilidae. Now tell me, what male blue-blooded spider wouldn't be interested in girls like these? Hi. Hey, let's just set the record straight right from the very start. Yes, it's true. Spiders have blue blood. Guess that makes them more loyal to their mates. The first thing you need to know is that in both of these spiders, and in particular the clavata, or the Joro spider, they both have a very short reproductive cycle. In other words, you have to act quickly while the season is right. And for these spiders, this begins in midsummer to late summer, very early fall. What happens is when the female spider does her last molt, and you remember they molt their old skin so because they grow bigger. So this would be in her more mature process. She does her last molt, and right after that last molt, she's in her most reproductive window, and it only lasts for a very short time, probably a couple of weeks, maybe 3 at most. And the male spider, he's only got a couple of weeks to do his thing, and then he's gone out of the picture completely. He dies off. So he's got one purpose: to grow into maturity, to find himself a female, and to inseminate her before he dies. And that repeats the cycle as time goes on and springtime arrives the following year and the baby spiderlings are hatched out of their egg sacs. Right before this period where the female becomes the most encouraged or willing to accept a male, she will stop fixing her webs and she'll probably stop doing some eating. However, sometimes, even before this very reproductive moment takes place, if a male is in waiting in her web, and they can show up in 10 to 12 in a web waiting for the female. The guy who has the upper part just above the hub where she would sit, the guy who has that position is called the guardian position. It means that this male is going to be approaching the female before all the others. And there is something about size here, even though the males are very, very small, real tiny. They will not battle. Whoever seems to be the largest spider, they give that spider the advantage for approaching the female first. The male, when he knows that she's in her prime, he will approach her very quickly. If the male catches her eating something, he'll go ahead and proceed in, because he knows if she's eating something, she's not likely going to be eating him for a meal. So that's a wise observation by the males. And you know, this is a very interesting part of the spider. It will do all kinds of things to win her attention. I filmed some where they pluck the strings as they come into the web and start approaching her. So she knows, oh, it's one of my own kind. Maybe I'll let him approach. Now, if she's hungry, she'll let him know, sure, come on in. But usually this spider does not cannibalize its own. Very rarely, unless the girl is really, really hungry. But anyway, the male comes in and he will pluck the strings like playing, an instrument, and she'll get these vibrations from him and his body, and she'll know, oh, there's a boy a-coming, so I'm going to just be really nice to him and invite him to come in and be my boyfriend, if you will. And the spider makes his approach. Now, some of these spiders will even do a little dance upon the body of the female, her abdomen, and maybe around her head area. And he uses his legs to give her a little light massage on her body. And she must like that, because she enjoys that time that he does that. And he's, of course, making things look good for him. And if and when she's ready to receive him, he gets the signal, and then we could have the copulation that takes place. And the sperm from the male is deposited into the female. Now, the female can hold that sperm within her own body for quite a while before she decides to lay eggs and then allow that sperm to cover over those eggs as she's laying them into a nest. It's a little web casing she makes, and then she encloses that, and that becomes the egg sac that will later on hatch out in the spring. So to go back to the male a second, I want to talk a little bit about his reproductive organs. If you look at the female, you can see the pedipalps. They're fairly large on the female because she's at least anywhere from 6 to 10 times larger, sometimes usually 10 times larger than the male. And her pedipalps serve a different purpose than his pedipalps. If we look at the male's pedipalps, those are used not only for feeling for things and touching things or cleaning off his legs or feet, but they're also used as his reproductive organ. Here's a picture of what the male pedipalps look like. Again, they serve two purposes. One, used to clean with and do other things, feel with, but also those pedipalps are used for reproduction. Here's what the male's pedipalps, or palps for short, look like if you were to magnify them. Take a look. And the interesting part about spiders is a different species of spider cannot have sexual relations with a female spider of a different species. That pedipalp is like a key. It's specially designed. Each one's a little bit different than the next species. It's like a key in a lock. Only that key will open the lock, so to speak. And that's what protects the species from not having copulation with two different kinds of species. Only one key unlocks the lock, and you better be from the right species, being the male. So he will actually deposit some sperm on a soft little webbing, and then he sucks that up into these pedipalps, and he can store that in there until he has his copulation with the female. At that point in time, he inserts the pedipalp into the female's organ and then injects the sperm that he has there. Now I got to tell you this is unusual for this spider, because to make sure sometimes that it's this male, he's only got a couple weeks to live. The ones who choose to stay with this female through the whole time, some of these guys are going to try to get to the female. If they can't, they'll leave a net, they'll leave that web and go find another female, another web, and they'll keep trying. And they may have intercourse with one or two or three different females. The problem is the male's sperm count isn't much, so he has a better chance sometimes to stay with the virgin spider. There's a way they can tell if the spider's a virgin. He's got a greater chance of his offspring being born of this female. And he'll go to some measures to do that. One, sometimes after he injects his semen, he will break off his pedipalp as a plug in the female, so no other male can come in there and try to inseminate her because it's blocked. Also, he'll hang around for his whole couple of weeks of productivity, and then he'll inseminate her again on the other side of her receptive area, and probably do the same thing. And once that happens, all his sperm is used up. Males who try to go other places can sometimes get a better chance of inseminating more than one female, but there's also the chance he's going to get to a web and she's not available because of plugs or whatever reasons. So that's one unique feature that goes on in this particular spider that's, I think, very interesting. Since the Joro spider has less of a reproductive cycle, it's shorter than the clavipes, the Joro spider will actually try to get over this whole period of reproduction as quickly as they can. And you probably won't see any males in the Joro spider's web after, early September. They're usually gone, not to be seen anymore. Where in the clavipes, our native spider, that process can continue on, the sexual activity can continue on for a little bit longer than what the Joro experiences. It may have something to do with the Joro living in a colder climate, coming from Japan and areas where it's as cold as it is sometimes in Michigan. So they need to get that reproductive cycle going quickly because they have a very limited, short time frame to be able to do that while the weather's halfway decent. So that's another role that is played in the reproductive cycle of both of these spiders. The egg sac that these two spiders make, Joro and clavipes, here's a picture of what it looks like, and you can see that there's a center core. Usually the eggs are yellowish in color, and then around that they wrap that up with some protective webbing that's designed to protect the eggs until they hatch in the spring. It protects them from weather, etc. So here's a picture of that. Have a look at that. Now, in particular, the Joro spider's egg sac can hold anywhere from 400 to 1,500 eggs. Now, not all of those make it into, life for themselves. Several will be eaten as cannibalistic nature takes place. Spiders are opportunists, and if a meal looks good to them and it's the right size, they won't hesitate to enjoy a meal. That's usually why these little spiderlings will hatch out in the spring. Eventually, they take off, balloon out of there because of the cannibalistic stuff that takes place, and they don't want to be somebody's meal. So in our native species, clavipes, her egg sac will hold anywhere from a couple hundred to 300 eggs, maybe 4 max. But the difference is, so you think, well, the Joro's got a lot more babies. Well, the Joro spider makes only 1 egg sac, pretty good size one. I told you this, the number of the eggs. The female clavipes, she makes up to 3 eggs, 2 or 3 with that quantity. So it evens out as far as how many are produced and hatched and who survives to go on to carry the next year of that spider species. 6. Both these spiders enjoy warm areas and some tropicalness to it. The difference is that the Joro spider, who's come over from Japan or Asia, can tolerate the colder temperatures in regions where the clavipes really just doesn't want to have any part of that. It doesn't like colder temperatures. But Joro has that advantage because of a heart rate that's different than clavipes. It has a high metabolism, which keeps the spider warmer in colder climates. And because of its shorter reproductive period, this spider has the potential or opportunity or the mechanical ability to live in colder places versus clavipes, our native spider. So we'll see how that works out in time. Will Joro spider head to colder climates? Will I see the Joro spider in Michigan? I'd like to. Time will tell. It may go north, it may go west, and it may go further south for sure into Florida. Number 7. Both of these spiders are very timid spiders. Matter of fact, I was just watching a person explaining how he had ran into the web of the Joro spider and pressed the spider up against his face. He wasn't bit. The spider just was glad to get out of their webbing and take off. So these Joro spiders, and they're even more timid, I think, than our own native species, clavipes. But they're both very timid spiders. If it comes to fight or flight, they're going to fly all the time. And I'm not talking about ballooning here. I'm just talking about if something gets in their way, they're not going to attack, they're going to take off. That's what most spiders try to do anyway. They don't want to waste a bite on you. They don't want to waste their venom. It takes them 2 to 3 days to replenish their venom, and then they can't eat. So they're both really well-natured spiders. They're not out to bite you. And this leads me into number 8. The bite of the Joro spider and its venom for both these spiders. And I will tell you this right up front. There seems to be a lot of, I don't want to call it controversy, but different opinions about this spider, the Joro spider, and its even possibility of biting you. I do want to set the record straight. The Joro spider can bite. Even though it has very small fangs, smaller than clavipes, it can bite you. And it will if threatened, squeezed, or in some way feels it's trapped. It will bite. And I can tell you this, there's reportings of bites for whatever reason they took place, where it is a painful bite. It's probably similar to a mild bee sting, where you get a little redness in the area, it might burn a little bit, might hurt a little bit, and then after a day or two it's gone. The redness will go down and it's gone. Now the only exception to that might be our native species, clavipes. Clavipes has a larger mouthpieces and a little bit larger fangs. But again, the same kind of response. It might hurt for a little bit, and that'd be it. Now, having said that, let me throw a little disclaimer in here, because every spider has venom, except for one, I think, or two possibly. And that venom, for some people who may be allergic to a bee sting and needs one of those needle and shots to carry around with them in case they get stung by a bee, if you're allergic to a bee sting's venom, you may also be allergic, highly allergic to a spider venom, which is very similar. So just be aware of that. If you have an allergic reaction, get to some place for help. Average person, like a little mosquito bite. Well, that's it on the 8 similarities, more similarities than differences, between these two spiders, the Joro Spider, clavata, and our native spider, clavipes. I hope you'd enjoyed this. Next time, I'm going to take you down a little different road, and I want to share the background for the Joro Spider's name.